AEW head-to-head with NXT. Tony Khan releases a statement saying he wants to be the number one pro wrestling show coming out of Tuesday night. That is how important this battle, this head-to-head between these two brands, these companies, that's how important it was to Tony Khan. How did it go? When it was all said and done, MJF cuts a promo of a lifetime. One of the greatest promos that BC has ever heard. Over on the NXT side of things, NXT continues to do what NXT does best, struggle to find its identity. And that was never more magnified than last night, where I truly believe Triple H has lost direction on where to take that brand. We talk all about it coming up in the very latest on the tragic turn of events during last night's AEW main event and that scary situation with Hangman Page. We have the very latest on his condition. AEW has released a statement on Hangman Page. We talk all about it coming up right now. NXT AEW 10-18-22 head-to-head. Sasha, hit my music.
I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. Cause I'm a real fight for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'm a big fine, need time, and I'll soon be with it. I live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'm a big fine, need time, and I'll soon be with it.
Thank you. I got it. Brighten it up to 7, please. Thank you. Sasha, cut my music. Cut it. Cut that shit. My amplified unit, top of the morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. A big night in pro wrestling last night. NXT, AEW head-to-head. Whether you like to talk about this or not, whether you like to think it was a battle or not, it doesn't really matter. When the owner of AEW himself is telling you that he wants to be, this is a message that he sent out even before the shows began. He said he wants to be the number one, AEW, the number one show coming out of Tuesday night. Well, he knows there's only 2 shows going on. That's how important. He said how important this night was to him. So you can lie to yourself and you can say, well, us as fans, let's just enjoy wrestling. Well, we're going to do that, but this is a podcast about pro wrestling, so you're probably in the wrong place if you don't want to talk about a huge battle that took place last night, that Triple H and Tony Khan have traded shots over the years, and you think this isn't a big night. That's adorable. You might want to find another channel because we're going to talk all about it, man. It's not going to be, well, it kind of is an in-depth review of both shows, and I haven't done an AEW one in a while, and I haven't done NXT in a while either, so I got to keep it kind of in the realm of shorter. I'm talking about 2 shows here. I don't know how short I can make this, but I want to run down both shows. It's not going to be the most detailed in review statures, but it's going to cover the bulk of both shows. That's what I really want to do because I want you guys to get a feel of these shows and what Tony Khan brought to the forefront for AEW and what Triple H even laid up at home with the 19. This was a fully produced Triple H show, just like Vinnie Mac would always do when he was out. You know, on the phone lines every fucking minute of the show. So this was a Triple H produced NXT. And I got to be honest, man. Should we start with NXT first? Let's go NXT first, and then I'll get to AEW. So if you just want to listen to the AEW review, I don't know what to tell you. We're not going to timestamp on this motherfucker. So you can just go forward into the video, because I got to talk NXT first, because that's just how my notes are, and I'm not going to start flipping pages. We're going to start with NXT first up. But before anything, man, first things first. Hangman Page's scary injury. This has to come first. So the cold open is dedicated to Hangman Page. And in case you guys were living underneath a rock in the last 12 hours, and I really can't blame you. It's going to be it's very early that we're filming this, and it's probably going to get out to you guys. I don't know, maybe later in the morning, actually. I might wait a little bit so you guys can at least wake up, drink some fucking orange juice, smash down 4 cups of coffee, eat your fucking Wheaties, and then listen to BC. But either way, if you haven't heard, last night's main event was stopped after just around the 10-minute mark. Hangman Page took a scary inside-out clothesline. Just one of those fucking... a lariat from Mox, basically. And Hangman is just supposed to turn inside out. One of those inadvertent... just one of those inside... We've seen it a million times. It's almost the rite of passage. If you're a pro wrestler to take a clothesline these days, you just go inside out. You get flipped inside out like a fucking tortellini. And he was just doing that, and it looked like Hangman just got knocked out upon impact. And we say that because he kind of landed stiff, and usually when that happens, you're already out off of your feet. That's a scary situation because upon impact, you could easily break your neck because you're not breaking your fall at that point. So Hangman it looked like he was already out upon impact. We were thinking it was a concussion because he just got knocked out like that, and then he landed just on his neck, the side of his neck. So, unfortunately, he did land on his neck. Fortunately, it didn't look like he hit it flesh, so it didn't look like anything broke. We're still waiting on word on that, but Big E instantly took to social. Big E said much prayers over to Hangman. Big E knows a little something about literally breaking his neck. So it was, for somebody like Big E to see that, that's got to make you fucking cringe. Because for fans watching, that did not look good. Upon replay, the hit, the landing, everything was pretty scary. Everything did not look good. The match was stopped. Doc Samson was brought in. EMTs were brought in. Hangman was actually stretchered out of the arena. Mox tried to keep the show going. Cut a little bit of a longer promo than what was supposed to happen post-match. And then MJF came out to set up their match at Full Gear. He's going to cash in that chip. Continuing the storyline of MJF, William Regal, and turning MJF face. But everything was altered after the injury. Now, AEW has sent out... this was just after midnight, I want to say, around 12:30 a.m., AEW sent this message out via their social, and their official response is this is a quote from AEW. Hangman Adam Page was taken tonight by medical personnel to a Cincinnati trauma center and diagnosed with a concussion. So nothing about anything breaking in the neck or anything wrong with the neck. That's good news. I'm guessing more evaluations will occur, but that's really good, man, because if you saw the landing and this dude was out off of his feet, that's not good. You can't break your fall, and you saw him land on the side of his neck. That was not good. So AEW says Hangman was taken tonight by medical personnel to a Cincinnati trauma center, diagnosed with a concussion. He was discharged, but will remain in AEW's concussion protocol. So there is going to be more testing, but it looks like it's just with the concussion, man. So it looks like they ruled out all things with the neck. That's very good to see. That is awesome to hear. And I quote, AEW and Hangman Page are grateful for the exemplary response and care of staff and local medical personnel, and are appreciative of the love and support of fans everywhere. So that's the official response. So it is a straight up concussion. So, I mean, it's very early. I'm putting this stuff together for you guys, and this is my first time reading this in full, right, for you guys, man. The red light went on, and I'm reading this with you. So, I glanced at it before we went on the air, but I didn't read it in full. I thought for sure they were going to do more testing. It looks like they ruled that out. It is a full concussion, so BC was right. Not that that's something to be proud of, but I was right. He was out off of his feet. So that means the initial contact, boom, concussion. And to some of you guys, if you see it, man, you just think it's annoying. I mean, you don't even see where it was just a clothesline from Mox. Mox is definitely not at fault, guys. It was just one of those scary wrestling accidents. It happens. It's not like Ridge Holland. That was just careless. And we saw that a few months earlier with Johnny Gargano with Ridge Holland, and he did the same thing, dropping him on his head. You can't do that shit. That's when somebody being as green as Ridge Holland is so bad that it's going to injure somebody. This was not Mox's fault. This was one of those scary wrestling injuries that just happens. This is the old saying is it's not ballet. So you look at it and you just look, okay, Mox just delivered a clothesline and Hangman was already going inside out. What the fuck's the big deal? But sometimes it's the ones that don't look as bad. You know, it's like in football, you could see somebody take such a hit. It's like a train collision. It's like a fucking tank colliding with a train. And the dudes just pop right up, right? And then you see something where it just looks like somebody's going for a tackle. They lower the left shoulder. They just tackle and they don't get up. And you're like, what the fuck happened? He just tackled him. Looked like a clean tackle. But he got that stinger, man. Right? He landed with the neck and that shoulder in the perfect spot where you ain't getting up. And it's tragic at that point. So sometimes it's those ones that don't look as bad. If you've seen enough pro wrestling and you've seen enough sports and you've seen enough of these injuries, you knew it didn't look good upon impact. You knew, like, when he landed what we call stiff, you knew, that was upon impact. That's an instant concussion at the least. At the very least. And at the worst, what happened upon that stiff landing? Did he injure the neck? So anyway, that's all I want to talk about it, guys. That was a huge situation last night, a huge story. Mox tried to keep it together. He actually cut a promo while Hangman was being taken out of the ring. Mox actually said, prayers for Hangman. He actually dropped some swears too because he was trying to hold it together. He dropped some swears when trying to call out MJF. He couldn't get his name right. Whatever his fucking name is, Maxwell, he says. And he says, whatever, some shit. So he's dropping swears. The microphone goes out on him. So Mox goes, this show is going off the rails. This show is falling apart, I think he said. So Mox was starting to fucking go off the rails. This show was a rough 10 minutes, but MJF was able to save it. He came down and said that he's cashing in his chip at Full Gear. And that continues the storyline with William Regal, who's smirking because William Regal told him earlier in the night that he wants to see him stop cutting corners. And this is part of the MJF face turn. I don't know how you guys feel about MJF turning face. Let me know down below if you like it, if you just want MJF to be that diabolical devil heel. But it's working somehow. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be too shocked. MJF, everything he touches turns to gold because he's so fucking good. And the promo that he cut last night with Regal, I can't wait to get to that part when I go over AEW. But first, we got to go over NXT. That's the cold open. Much love, much strength, much power, much respect over to Hangman Page, man. A fast recovery, but not too fast, man. Get yourself together. Pick up the pieces and put Humpty Dumpty back together again, man. We can't wait to see Hangman back. That's just a real good dude behind the scenes. Everybody has just a great thing to say about Hangman Page. I've never heard somebody say something bad other than Phil Brooks, CM Punk. But that shouldn't be shocking either. So that's that situation. We'll go over that a little bit more when I go over AEW. NXT, 10-18-22. Now, there's two different ways you could go here. This is AEW versus NXT. There's playoffs for baseball. My Yankees were leading into Dynamite last night. My Yankees, thankfully, they defeated the Guardians, the Cleveland Indians. We defeated them in Game 5. It should never have gone to Game 5, but we did it. And we are going on to the ALCS to take on the Cheaters, the Houston Cheaters. I'm sorry, what's their name, Sasha? The Astros. We call them the Cheaters because all they know how to do is fucking cheat. I expect a little bit of the same coming up this year, but hopefully we have an answer for it. Anyway, there's a lot of playoffs. There's a lot of games going on. There's a lot of shit that booted Dynamite straight off a Wednesday night. This is a battle where Triple H lost the first time around on Wednesday, and he got booted permanently to Tuesday nights. He even gave Triple H a fucking heart issue, and he was put on the shelf. Well, here we go again, and his immune system is shot. He catches the 19, and once again, he's laid up in bed as he takes on Tony Khan. Triple H just cannot win. Tony Khan is the kryptonite to Paul Levesque. But this is a huge battle where Tony Khan chose to put together a night of championship matches, and to counter that, Triple H put together a night of main roster stars. And this is a trend we've been seeing for a while now, whether it's the Apollos and so many others, or just like a night like this where they told you straight out it's going to be main roster heavy, and NXT wrestlers are kind of going to be sprinkled in. But it contradicts what Triple H said when asked by Ariel Helwani about AEW beating him in NXT. He said, "Congratulations, they beat a developmental system." And he says, you have to look at NXT like it's college football to the NFL. But yet he's bringing all of these wrestlers back over. I mean, Apollo Crews is now on NXT once again. Veer Mahan is once again on NXT. You guys can probably come up with a few other names. Mandy Rose went back to NXT. She's been crushing it with the championship. But in college sports, how often does the professional go back to college to play college ball? How many NFL players do you know that went back to college to play? It doesn't happen. So it's almost like Triple H tried to save face in those interviews, and he didn't want to admit that he just got his ass whooped. There's no shame in that. You pick yourself up and you dust yourself off and you come back better than ever and you whoop ass. But to call NXT just a college program, basically, it's just developmental, and not really identify it as a third brand like he always used to until he got his ass whooped, this is contradicting, man. He's been saying nothing but it's been developmental. It's a college program, basically. It's just for the newer wrestlers. And yet it's been so main roster heavy the past several months. And last night, that's the direction he chose to try to pop a rating. Shows you the confidence that he has in NXT, but it contradicts the image of NXT. What is NXT? This brand, because it still is a brand, whether H wants to admit it or not, it is so lost right now. It is struggling to find its identity. And it is really sad to remember what NXT was and to see the last couple years. And NXT is actually not a bad show, or at least whenever I tune in, they put together good shows, and there's been good story. Like even with 2.0, man, the Dolph Ziggler and Braun Breaker shit, I was into that. Roxy and Cora Jade, into that shit. What Mandy Rose has been doing. Joe Gacy's got a good character. I mean, there's good. Braun Breaker has been on a rise, on a tear, like you don't often see. Is there a full connection with the crowd? Of course not. Hopefully that comes. But there's so much good in NXT, they just struggle to find an identity. And because that comes across to your audience, they can't really captivate a good, consistent week-to-week audience. That's why you'll see it fluctuate 6 to 7, 7 to 6, 5, 568 to 650, 675, 610 in the ratings. And they don't fluctuate as much as AEW used to, but damn, man, the identity of NXT is all over the place. Constantly changing their color schemes, constantly changing their image, their reputation changes because they change every week. Sometimes change is good, sometimes it'll drive people away. When you don't know what you are, don't expect anybody else to know what you are. That's my harsh message for NXT. Get your shit together. Who are you? What are you? The days are done with, well, we're kind of developmental and we're kind of a brand. Remember when we used to get away with that, right? The old school NXT, we used to say that. It is developmental, but it's its own brand. These days, man, that doesn't work anymore. Triple H is lost on the direction. I love Shawn Michaels, but I don't know if Shawn Michaels is the dude for this job. And I can't even just blame him because it comes from the top, and right now, that seems to be Paul Levesque. I'm still not even saying it's a horrible show. It has no identity, man. I mean, to watch a whole night of main roster stars when this is supposed to be like college football to the NFL is what H sold us on. NXT superstars, NXT wrestlers seem to take not just a back seat last night, they were in the trunk driving down the highway. Many of the main roster stars winning their matches, which I guess you should say, well, BC, they're main roster, man. But I don't know what this night did for NXT. I really don't. Let's jump into it. Roxy started this thing off. Roxanne Perez. I'll always know her as Roxy. That's my gal. She took on Rhea Ripley, main roster talent, as you know. The match was what we knew it would be, right? It was a Ripley exhibition. However, a dog can only play with a toy for so long before that toy ends up breaking up in your mouth and choking you. And that's almost what happened to Rhea Ripley in this match. She played around with that toy too much, and it broke in her mouth, and it almost choked her, right? Roxanne Perez almost defeated her on a couple of occasions. But Rhea, in the end, was just too much. A riptide would ultimately put Perez away. Now, the key points for BC in this match, and there were several. Number one, always good to see my gal Roxy in that ring. One of my favorites, and she's only 20 years old, guys. She can't even go to a vacation resort and have a margarita, a martini with her friends until November 5th, 17 days away when she turns 21. She can't even do that right now. She can go on vacation. She can hit up the resort. She cannot have a martini. Only 20 years old, and she's that fucking good. Always just boggles my mind, man. Some people just get it. Also, it was so cool to see Perez wrestle while Booker T was on commentary. Of course, Perez trained at Reality of Wrestling under Booker T, and Booker has always been so high on Roxanne Perez, always so high. Booker went as far as to compare her to a future Lita type wrestler. I can see some of the similarities. Lita was in a category of her own. Not even Stratus was in the category. That doesn't mean Lita was better, don't worry. I'm saying it's a different category. Lita is just so different. But there is, I see what Booker is saying. And to give her that type of star power, man, that's real high praise. And Booker always did praise Roxanne Perez. So it was cool to see Booker watching this match in real time on commentary. And it was just also so good to see Rhea Ripley just wrestling again, period. A lot of people may not even realize it because she's been on TV every week, it seems, every show. But she's actually been injured the last nearly 4 months. Head injury, I believe it was a mouth injury, correct? But she's been out for months. So to see Rhea Ripley wrestling again, very cool. So if you think about it, this was actually a really good match for her to come back to, right? It's not necessarily a Raw match live primetime television on Monday night where she has to shake off the ring rust. I guess if you're going to do it, Tuesday night with NXT would be the match. And they trusted somebody like Roxanne Perez to be in there with her on her first match back. So that's a lot of respect shown over her, a lot of trust put into Roxy. So Rhea Ripley just being back in the ring, that was pretty cool. And lastly, there's one other thing, man. See, I told you there's a lot of goods coming out of this, even though it was a quick match. Having Judgment Day there in full was just an incredible way to start the show. NXT, the crowd popped hard, guys. Popped hard. I'm sure nobody expected all of them to show up. We heard that Finn Balor might show up, and we knew that Rhea was on the show. But to see all four of them, you hear that response, man. Huge Judgment Day chants. It is clear if you give that group proper booking, they're over. They're already over as long as you continue consistent booking. Having the entire group show up with Rhea was not just badass, but it shows how tight the group is. So just for visuals, for believing that the group is actually a group, this did wonders for Judgment Day. So I really enjoyed all those aspects of Roxy versus Rhea Ripley. Roxanne Perez versus Ripley. Just a quick match. It was basically a Ripley exhibition. So wrestling-wise, nothing over the top, but a lot of check marks in the good column when it was all said and done for everything else. So yeah, no harm, no foul. Roxy doesn't lose anything from this, man. Next up, Tony D'Angelo picks his opponent for Stacks, and it's Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, Nakamura is victorious in his return to NXT, pinning Stacks via the Kinshasa. It was a quick match, which was the theme of the night, and much praise to Stacks because before he took Shinsuke's finisher, Kinshasa, he looks right at Shinsuke and he just says, "Bring it, bitch." He knew he was done. He put up a battle, but it's fucking Shinsuke. There's nothing else he can do. He's not going to run away. Bring it, bitch. Take me out. And he just fucking... And Shinsuke's like, all right, man. It was going to happen anyway, but at least you're taking it on the chin like a man. Shinsuke comes $110. Like down the highway at $110. He comes right at Stacks. Takes the dude out 1, 2, 3. It truly showed D'Angelo that Stacks is a tried and true family soldier. So this did wonders for Stacks and D'Angelo, I believe. Biggest issue here is that it just makes no sense. There's literally no connection between Tony D and Naka. Seems like this was just a vehicle to get Shinsuke on the show. And I guess if you're Shinsuke, you're just happy that you're on a show, right? So for Shinsuke, you win either way. You're back on TV somehow. But as far as the NXT brand, as far as any storyline with D'Angelo and Stacks, I just don't see Shinsuke and D'Angelo, the connection. I just don't. This came so far out of left field with a hockey stick. It's just one of those things where you have to stop and say, are we just bringing in main roster talent just to bring in main roster talent? Is there not even a connection? Is there at least a vehicle where people can say, oh, this is good because of X, Y, and Z? Are we just doing things just to do them? Are we just booking random shit? Are we just throwing shit at the wall and hope that it sticks? It just seems like one of those situations. You want to talk fast matches, man. Up next was Alba Fire versus Sonya Deville. This was a hot mess, to say the least. And the only reason that it was hot was because Alba Fire was in the match. Everything else was just a mess. Match was 2 minutes, literally to the second, man. I mean, if you clocked it to the second, it was just about 2 minutes in length. It was basically just 3-on-1, Fire versus Sonya Deville and Toxic Attractions, Gigi Dolan and JC. And it didn't do any favors for them because Alba Fire was able to... Alba Fire, she didn't just beat the shit out of them, but it was Sonya Deville that inadvertently took out her own helping squad. Sonya Deville ends up taking them out as well. And that leaves Alba Fire able to defeat Sonya Deville via the awe-inspiring, ultra-devastating fruit roll-up. That devastating fruit roll-up, man. reared its ugly head, and Alba Fire, I guess, hey, you pick up a W whichever way you can, especially when it's 3-on-1, so I guess story-wise this would make sense. The problem is we see the roll-up so many times in pro wrestling that it just doesn't have an effect anymore. So here we are in a 2-minute match. It was never 1-on-1, really. I mean, maybe half. I don't know. Half of it, which was what, a minute? It was basically 3-on-1. It ends in a fruit roll-up. I don't know where I can find good here, guys. No, I mean that. I don't know where I can find. I mean, I'm even going over the notes. I'm trying to remember exactly how I watched it. I don't remember anything positive. It just made DeVille look stupid. But for the first time in the night, an NXT roster talent actually beat a main roster talent. So I guess that's a positive, right? An NXT star beat a main roster star. We'll take that, man. Post-match, Toxic Attraction and DeVille beat... Oh, it just gets worse. DeVille and Toxic Attraction beat down Alba Fire. Mandy Rose's music hits, and she cuts a promo from the top of the ramp as she's walking down to the ring. So Mandy Rose is talking shit. Toxic Attraction and Sonya Deville have Alba Fire tied up, even with a fucking baseball bat in her mouth. And all of a sudden, guys, you can't make this up. Alba Fire just starts fucking beating up everybody. So she somehow gets out of being held down by 3 individuals. So Sonya gets taken out, JC gets taken out, Gigi gets taken out, and even Mandy. Mandy gets so scared she ends up running away and leaves her title in the ring, so Alba Fire holds up the championship as the lasting image ahead of the Havoc, Halloween Havoc, Saturday night. So, and if you go back, man, this was horrible, man. Go back and watch for yourself. Watch Gigi when Alba Fire breaks out of being held down by all 3. Watch Gigi. I mean, she doesn't know what to do. She goes back 4 feet. Then she has to come back so she could take a kick from Alba Fire, but they're so far away that it barely grazes like the back of her hand. And then Gigi slowly, very slowly, walks over to the corner and slams her head into the middle ring post. Or the middle ring turnbuckle, not the post. You don't have a middle post, you just have a ring post. The middle turnbuckle. So she gets a grazing kick to the back of her hand, takes slow steps to the corner, and throws her head into the middle turnbuckle. What the fuck is Gigi Dolan doing? Gigi's better than that, bro. I hope. I've seen her better than that. That was horrendous, bro. Go back and check that out. Or you know what? Save yourself. Don't. I don't know what happened there. That was just a debacle. 4-on-1 and Alba Fire is just all of a sudden tapping into superhuman powers. My boy, JR9 Gaming, you probably love that shit, man. She would have looked good if they gave him at least, 7-8 minutes? Sonya can go. I don't know if they would have chemistry or not, but I think it would have been a decent match. But I don't know what the fuck happened. That was the weirdest, probably the dumbest segment of the entire night. Because it just didn't make sense. I mean, Shinsuke Nakamura being picked by D'Angelo was somehow better than that. I don't know, man. That was just not good, so I'm not going to harp on it. We got a lot to talk about. Let's keep moving on. It's the best case scenario. If we just move on. In one of only 2 straight NXT versus NXT talent matches, Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams defeated Wes Lee and Mensa. Mello pins Wes Lee in what was, again, a 2-minute match and no reason to give a shit. That may seem harsh. It's the utmost truth. Cameron Grimes and the OC. More main roster talent. You guys catching the theme. Cameron Grimes and the OC defeat Gacy in Schism. The Magic Killer is hit on Reed. On one hand, you can say at least Grimes and Gacy were not involved in the finish, eating an L. But on the other hand, you could say this was all about the OC, which would belittle everything that Grimes and Gacy have been trying to achieve and accomplish over the last several months. It's almost like the OC was overshadowing anything NXT was doing. for these individuals. And that's the problem with all this main roster talent last night. You completely, for one full show, one full week leading in to one of your biggest events of the year, Halloween Havoc, the main roster talent completely has overshadowed you. That's not good, man, by any metric. Either way, the best part in all of this was before the match. This was backstage. Grimes walks up to Gallows and Anderson in the OC's locker room. Puts out a fucking two handfuls of cash in front of Gallows. And Gallows, legit, man. Gallows goes ballistic with joy like a kid on Christmas morning. I mean, he starts flipping out. He turns into his inner fucking child, bro. Gallows is straight comedy gold. A lot of you guys might not really think that if you don't know his history. He just looks like a big, mean presence, a bulldozer, a bodyguard type guy. But Gallows is hysterical. If you guys remember Southpaw Regional Wrestling, I believe it was a whole skit wrestling company. Southpaw Regional, I believe it was called. Gallows was just one of the funniest parts of those skits. And Jericho was hilarious. Cena, all of that Southpaw Regional Wrestling shit was just funny. To the moon! Funny. But Gallows took it to a whole nother level. I forgot his name, man. How the fuck? How am I going to mess up his name? I got to find out that name, man. Somebody's got to throw that name over to BC. What the hell was his name in Southpaw? I got to remember that. It was hilarious. Oh, come on, man. I can't continue the show, guys, until I find this out. Hold on, please. Hold on. Let me try to get... what the fuck? I think it was Southpaw Regional, right? Southpaw Regional. Yeah, it is, man. Tex Ferguson. If you ever got the time, check out Tex Ferguson's work in Southpaw Regional Wrestling, and you can thank me later. So anyway, that was the funniest part of all this. Other than that, I don't know what this really does for Cameron Grimes and Gacy, other than it's a fun segment. It was a fun moment, basically. Okay, but you're a few days away from Halloween Havoc. Have fun with your fun moments, because you got to get down to business. At some point, people have to take NXT talent seriously. Quincy Elliott defeats Quinn via the Diva drop. Next, Quincy, with that win, will now join Shotzi Blackheart as co-host for Halloween Havoc. So I definitely could see that working, man. I think that could be a fun dynamic for Halloween Havoc. Co-host Shotzi Blackheart and Quincy Elliott. You could definitely see Shotzi Blackheart as a host of a Halloween event. It just fits like a glove. I cannot look at Quincy Elliott and not think Mabel from old school WWF. Does anyone out there remember Men on a Mission Mabel? Okay, now you check out Quincy Elliott from last night. You check out Mabel. It's fucking... Come on, man. I can't help it. Cora Jade is up next. Cora defeats Raquel Rodriguez. That's right, I said that correctly. But don't get it twisted. This match never really even started. Cora Jade defeated Raquel Rodriguez via DQ when Raquel used a kendo stick. I blinked and this match was over. There's a lot of story to tell with Jade and Raquel for the future. You can just see that. But when segments are this short with no real substance, you're almost being counterproductive. There was literally no reason for this. My gal Roxy ends up hitting the ring. Perez sends Jade running off into the night. So I don't even know if there was contact. She just kind of chases Jade off, maybe a little bit. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's always good to see Roxy. And then Raquel picks Roxy up onto her shoulder like she's like her toy. And I'm like, what the fuck? You put Roxy down, man. You can't fucking treat her like she's a chihuahua. I can't stand that. She would do that with Aaliyah, and maybe with Aaliyah you could get away with it. Aaliyah gets injured, and now all of a sudden they're using Roxy to be the next Aaliyah. The little pal, right? What's next? Is Raquel gonna pet Roxy on the head? Fucking comb her hair, take her for a walk on a leash until she pisses? What's the deal? She's not a pet. If Aaliyah is the pet of Raquel, that's one thing. Roxanne Perez, Roxy, is too fucking good to be treated like a fucking sidekick. Raquel puts her up on her shoulders like she's Rudy. You ever see the movie Rudy and she's being carried off the fucking field of Notre Dame? Anyway, that gets me heated. Next up was the main event, and it ends. The main event segment was reserved for the KO show. Again, more main roster talent. Kevin Owens is completely overshadowing the main event spot 4 nights away from Halloween Havoc. His guests, Braun Breaker, Dragunov, and McDonut. In the end, Austin Theory comes out, holds his Money in the Bank briefcase up high because Dragunov laid everybody out, except for Owens. I think Owens just wanted to watch a fight. And Austin Theory comes out, more main roster talent, and fucking holds up his WWE main roster Money in the Bank briefcase. As if what? Is he going to cash it in NXT? Was all of this to cash it? And you know what? Maybe it would make sense because I don't see Austin Theory, at least not successfully, cashing in on Roman Reigns. All of Roman's title reign was not for Austin Theory to take it from him. You know that. You got to believe Cody Rhodes is going to be the one to take it from Roman. And Austin Theory, you just don't see him beating Cody, especially if Cody gets it at, say, what? WrestleMania? If it's not going to be Rock and Roman, or if Roman is going to have 2 matches, WrestleMania Saturday night, WrestleMania Sunday night, one with Cody, one with The Rock. Either way, it looks like it's going to be Cody at Mania somehow taking the title. Well, okay, isn't the Money in the Bank briefcase going to be up by that time? When was Money in the Bank, guys? What date? I mean, it's not going to be that long after WrestleMania. So is Cody going to have a 1, 2, 3 month title reign and then Austin takes it from Cody? I don't see any way that Theory gets the championship, is what I'm saying. I don't see any avenue where Austin Theory successfully cashes in. So maybe in AEW, it's the best option for him. But what do? You're going to bring back a main roster talent to get an NXT championship? I thought it's college football to the NFL, Triple H. I thought this is for developmental. I thought you said this should not be looked at more like a brand, more like developmental. What are we doing? This is what I mean. It's lost its identity. Why the fuck is Kevin Owens ending the night? Why is Austin Theory holding up his WWE storyline, which is the Money in the Bank briefcase, as if he's actually going to cash in NXT? What are we doing, man? It's almost like the show had nothing to do with NXT talent. You say, well, BC, it was just one night, man. One night of fun. Guys, NXT Halloween Havoc is in 4 nights. I can't tell you fucking anything. I mean, the card is okay. Nothing last night did anything for that card. Nothing. And that's how we ended NXT. So even with all of the short matches, all of the main roster talent, I'm not going to say it was a bad show. It's just it's a meaningless show. It has no identity. And there's a lot of problems. And if they think that that's the show that's going to put together fucking 750,000 viewers to 1 million even consistently, not going to happen. You just relied on your main roster for that whole fucking show. What are you going to do next week? You better really hope that there's a post-Halloween Havoc presence with your fan base. This show has no identity. I said earlier, I'm not going to go ahead and say it's a bad show last night. There's no way I can say it was good. Not by any fucking stretch. AEW, let's flip sides, man. You can tell I have no fucking coffee. That's how early it is. The sun's finally starting. I have had no coffee yet, guys. This whole fucking... It's going to 45 minutes already. This has all been coffeeless BC. So I can't wait to go get my first coffee right after this, man. Because right now I'd be having a huge swig before I start AEW. But we start off Dynamite with the Death Triangle defeating Cassidy and Best Friends. I don't cover schmaz matches, you guys know that. Anything more than a 2-on-2 traditional tag match, BC calls that a schmaz. Too many individuals, not a lot of care usually. Because it's just too many fucking people. Can't keep track. I'm not there to do homework. I'm there to watch a fucking show and hopefully be entertained. I shouldn't have to do homework and follow 6 motherfuckers bouncing around the ring like a ping pong ball. Unless it's something really good, right? If it's a good 6-man tag, I'll talk about it. Or if it's like an event like Survivor Series or like a War Games that has a multi-man aspect to it, then BC will cover it. But this was your typical AEW trios match. Everyone in there at once. There was no rules, gymnastic displays personified. There was no shortage of wrestlers not properly selling moves. I mean, this was your stereotypical fucking trios division match in AEW, and BC wants no fucking part of it. As I said, Death Triangle defeated Cassidy and the Best Friends. Let's just move on. Toni Storm defeated Shida via Storm Zero. This was a good women's title match. BC, you're just saying that because you're high on Shida. Yeah, absolutely I am. That doesn't mean I'm not going to call a fucking Shida match down the middle. If it's a bad Shida match, I'm going to say it. Do I feel that Toni Storm has had a good title reign yet? No, but Tony Khan usually does not supply his female talent with good title reigns. We've seen that over time with the Shidas or the fucking Rios or the fucking... just recently with Thunder Rosa. I mean, how many good title reigns can you remember, you know? Shida held the company on their back for the women during a rough time for AEW, but she never quite got the booking she deserved. So I feel this was definitely one of those breakout opportunity matches for Toni Storm, and it was a huge match for Shida, and they both delivered. This was a really good, really not really good, but it was a good women's title match, man. BC was absolutely into it from bell to bell. Could you imagine if Khan actually put a story behind them, built it, and then presented it? I mean, you know, then it would be even better. But Tony just kind of throws these matches out there. Post-match, and again, as I said, Toni Storm did defeat Shida with that Storm Zero. I'm okay with that. It was a damn good showing by Shida, and it reminded everybody just how good Shida is. Post-match, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and Rebel hit the ring to beat down both Storm and Shida. Saraya catapults to the ring and battles Baker right into the crowd. And that allows Rio to then, who I just aforementioned, ironically, Rio makes her return to AEW, making the save for Storm and Shida. So Rio could not have come down any more slower. Rio comes out. I know she just returned, so she wants to look at the crowd and smile. Your friends are getting beat up, right? They're getting the shit kicked out of them. Rio comes fucking skipping out, smiling and shit. Hey, what's that? Anybody got free ice cream? I love ice cream. And she's looking, and then she realizes, oh yeah, I came here for a reason. And she slowly walks down. She's like, oh, what am I doing? I calculated this wrong. I misinterpreted the situation. I kind of want to go back to the locker room. But she's like, I went too far. I'll just go to the ring. She gets in there and thankfully fucking takes out. So I think it was Rebel who had like a kendo stick or so. I don't even know. Rio makes the save. It was it was funny as fuck. Do you call that a save? Shit. If there's a fucking fire and you got a loved one inside, or even a pet, which is a loved one, or something, man. Somebody's inside. You're telling somebody to help. Hell, you don't want fucking Rio helping you, bro. Whatever's inside is burning. You ain't getting that back. Not with Rio. There was no fucking urgency in her whatsoever. Anyway, I think one of the other funny parts was Taz. When Saraya hit the ring to take out Baker, Taz goes, wow, what a right hook by Saraya. And is immediately, I forgot, Shivani, somebody has to correct them. And they go, Saraya, taking it to Baker. And Taz goes, oh yeah, my bad. The reason that's funny, guys, is because Paige actually went to social media and she said, oh, it's going to be funny over the next few weeks to see everyone mispronounce my name. She tagged Taz, Tony Schiavone, everybody in it, because she already knew that commentary was going to butcher her name and call Saraya. So she actually tagged Taz and everybody on how to pronounce her name. So to hear Taz call her Saraya, it was just funny. Then he gets corrected, and then he goes, "Oh yeah, my bad." You got to believe that was on purpose. Or maybe fucking not. Maybe Saraya just knew. That's her whole life. That's just what people call her, Saraya. Anyway, moving on. This was just fucking epic. This was, if I had a coffee right now, I'd down half of it before I went into this. But this is MJF and William Regal back and forth on the mic. I'll take this over any 6-star Melty Boy gymnastic classic any day of the week, twice on Sunday. MJF cuts a promo of a lifetime, man. He tells a story of his first ever tryout with WWE and his encounters with William Regal. He said that while he was training at the Creator Wrestler complex, he was pulled aside by his trainer, and the trainer said, I got you a WWE tryout match, or for WWE, as a WWE extra, basically. So MJF tells a story that he gets there with other wrestlers, and there's 4 dudes that are going to be evaluating them. William Regal is one of them, Arn Anderson, Adam Pearce, and there was a 4th individual, man. Adam Pearce. Somebody else was up in there, man. That's going to bug me. But I can't make this go 2 hours for you guys, so I got to move on. There was 4 individuals, though. It was not just Anderson, Regal, and Pierce. There was another individual, and BC just can't think of his fucking name. I'm covering 2 shows. It's early in the morning. I haven't had coffee. All apologies. But there was a 4th dude. They were all evaluating these talents. And they put them in these little matches to see what they had. These 2 individuals go before MJF. As soon as they start, Arn Anderson tells them to get out of the ring. Clearly did not cut it. MJF is up next. The way MJF describes the story, he wowed everybody to the point where Regal actually pulled him aside away from everybody else, brought him to a separate room, and says, "I see something in you, kid. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to sell me on why I should hire you, why I should use you tonight. Sell me on why I should give a shit about you." And the way MJF tells the story is that when he was all said and done, Regal was left picking up his jaw off the floor. That's how impressive MJF was, to the point where Regal said, "I'm going to get you a job here. I'm going to get you a job here," until he asked him his age. And MJF said, "I'm 19. And Regal said, "I'm sorry, kid. You're just too young." Devastating, heartbreaking for MJF. But before his way out, Regal said he was so impressed that he wanted MJF to send him a video. He wanted to send him progress. He wanted to keep in touch every month. Keep in touch. And he wanted to evaluate his progress because he saw so much potential. So MJF says, month 1, that's what I did. I did my match. I sent it over. I cut the promos. I waited for his evaluation. Month 1, nothing. Month 2, same thing, sent over. Nothing. Month 3, I get an email, he says, from Regal, and it was scathing. Basically saying that what Regal said in this email is, I'm a busy man who is evaluating talent from all over the world. I don't have time for this acting bullshit, is what Regal told MJF, because whatever MJF sent him in that 3rd month, Regal obviously thought it was too much acting, and there was no reason to give a shit about Maxwell, and that's what he put in the email. Why, in anything that I just watched, should I give a shit about a Maxwell? And MJF said he was absolutely crushed. Regal ended it saying, "Don't waste my time until you become a star. Until you know how to be a star, don't ever waste my time again." Basically cutting ties with MJF. MJF goes on to say he reads that email every day to this point. Every single day, because he was crushed to the point where he almost took his life, he said. In the middle of the ring on the mic, he actually said that. But he said he no longer reads it to get a chip for that chip on his shoulder. He says he now reads it to get a good laugh because Regal has become no more than a joke to him. Because, oh, how the tables have turned. This is nearly a quote, MJF into the eyes of Regal last night. He tells Regal, oh, how the tables have turned. You were fired from that place, and now I'm on top of the wrestling world. It was so fucking clutch. It connected. You felt it, bro. And Regal's rebuttal was just as heartfelt and clutch. This will go down. Regal responded saying, I knew you had it in you. I knew you just weren't getting it. So if that email is what it took to get you to where you are here 7 years later, then you had it easy. Regal says because at 16, I was fighting grown men just to try to survive and get into this business. If it took an email for you, you had it easy, sunshine. He tells MJF that I don't want to see you cutting corners. See, you still don't impress me. You still don't get it. All you do is you cut corners. You haven't done anything to really earn your way. Until you actually man up and start going face to face and doing something of relevance, you'll never earn my respect. He says, you don't get it. You use things like these, and he takes out brass knuckles. And he says, you use these just to win the match to cut corners. I use these because I just like to fucking punch people in the face with them. Love Regal. It was just so great. Regal turns around. He says, if you really are that angered, if you really have that much hostility from that email in the past, if you really want to show your true colors, here's your shot. He turns around. MJF puts on his diamond ring, but he never takes the shot. He never takes a shot. It's almost like a kid that has had it hard. I can fucking speak, Sasha. Has had it hard growing up with his father. You know, his father's always been hard on him. And, you know, the kid actually believes that he can't stand his father. He hates his father, right? He has such resentment for his father. But in the moment where they're together, it's almost like that kid is reminded, oh yeah, there's still a huge part of me that wants to get his respect, that wants to get his attention, that wants to get his validation. So it's almost like MJF has been that kid for so long whose father left him, wanted nothing to do with him. And then finally when he gets to release all of this frustration and all this resentment that he's had for him, and then when it's all out there and he gets to take his shot, he's reminded, man, oh no, I can't. I have so much respect for you, and I'd rather try to get that validation. I'd try to get that respect back instead of take a shot on you. It was so well done, man. I don't even believe I'm reading more into it. I mean, that's the story that I'm getting here. And the whole thing is slowly but surely turning MJF monster face. Whether you like it or not, I hear you. I would never be down with this idea. MJF is a natural born heel. He's amazing at it, one of the best to ever do it. And for him to just turn face like this, BC would never be on board with that. But I gotta be honest, the way they're doing it is fucking immaculate. And I shouldn't be shocked because MJF is fucking immaculate. Everything MJF does is top notch. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. And as he said many months ago, he doesn't even have to do gymnastics or put his life on the line with crazy moves or put on Melty Boy 6-star classics. He doesn't have to do that. Pro wrestling is based on characters at the forefront. Characters first. You gotta be invested in motherfuckers. In many ways, the character comes before the actual fucking wrestling, and that may sting for a lot of you guys to hear. But if we don't have a connection to the characters that are in the match, then we're just watching two dudes or two gals or 4 or 6, or these days it's fucking 10-man tags. We're watching all these individuals play with each other. Characters. I'll take MJF talking on a microphone for 15 minutes over any Melty Boy 6-star gymnastic clinic rated match. That was a promo for a lifetime. And MJF has already had a lot of them. This will go at the top of the list, especially doing it with Regal. They bring out the best in one another. I cannot give this more praise. I say slowly but surely, that turned MJF face instantly. I mean, listen to the Cincinnati crowd. When he threw that mic down and they erupted in an MJF chant, man, I was like, how the fuck did they do that so seamlessly, so smoothly, until I remembered, oh yeah, it's MJF and Regal, bro. They're just fucking amazing. I could sit here another hour and praise this. I have to move on. There was other stuff on the show. MJF continues to befuddle BC in the best of ways. In a day and age where everything that happens in wrestling seems to befuddle all of us in a negative way, this is stunning in the most exceptional of ways. MJF fucking crushed that ball out of the park, Grand Slam style. Fuck the playoffs. Give him the trophy. He's already champ. He doesn't even need to go to the playoffs. That's how good he is. Just give him the fucking championship, because this season belongs to him. Up next, Chris Jericho defeated former ROH champion Dalton Castle via Judas Effect. Great to see Castle finally on the big stage, I will say that. Jericho continues to terrorize former ROH champions. Even post-match, Jericho pile-drived former ROH champion Jerry Lynn. I believe he's also the fucking trainer for AEW. Or not trainer, what am I saying? Fucking, well, yeah, he is training. He's... I still think medical staff with the trainer. No, he is one of the he's one of the backstage helping hands now for AEW. But Jerry Lynn, man, we all know his fucking base, but you remember him from ECW. Former ROH champion, he got fucking pile drived on the ROH title at the top of the ramp by Jericho, bro. So Jericho is just steamrolling through ROH. I'm hoping in the end that this helps ROH. I'm not seeing how it's doing that right now. but I'm hoping they have a plan, man. I want to put some stock in what Tony's doing. A really good backstage interview with Renee Paquette, Wheeler Yuta, and Bryan Danielson. Yuta is pissed that Danielson actually fell for Daniel Garcia's bullshit. And he says he literally has Dragon Slayer in his entrance. He does. That's a very good point, Wheeler. So I love those type of interviews with Renee Paquette, as I've said in the past. More of those, please. And then we went into the main event, Mox versus Hangman Page for the AEW World title. Match started extremely hot with Page meeting Mox in the crowd to start the brawl. So while Mox is in his entrance through the crowd, Hangman says, I'm not waiting for shit. He goes over to him. They start brawling, man, through the crowd. Hangman is hitting a moonsault in the crowd. You got Mox bloodied already because it's not a Mox match if he's not wearing the crimson mask. So Mox is all fucking bloodied up. It was just, in all honesty, this match was rocking for the first 10 minutes. Absolutely off to a really good start. You had at least another 7 to 8 minutes because there was about 10 minutes left in the show. And you knew that the last couple of minutes was going to be MJF coming out and declaring that he's going to cash in at Full Gear. So that was going to be a couple minutes. So you had at least about 7 or 8 minutes left in this match. At least. So it was going to be a really cool finish, you got to believe. But unfortunately, a tragedy struck as Mox hit Hangman with an inside-out clothesline. Hangman seemed to have been injured on initial contact. We would find out that that was the case. And we originally thought that because he landed stiff on the side of his neck. Doc Sampson EMTs were brought in immediately. The referee stopped the match. Mox wins via referee stoppage. That's the least of our worries at that point. Hangman's health was top priority. It was scary shit. We were all sending much love and strength over to Paige. And then afterwards, Mox tries to keep the show together. Mox says the Yankees didn't go into extra innings and we got a lot of time left on the show. So he calls out MJF. MJF comes out, and to what Regal was saying earlier about earning your shit, stop cutting corners or you'll never earn my respect and validation. MJF looks right at Regal and everybody and says, for the first time in my life, I'm going to earn this. I'm not going to cash this in any cheap way. I am going to tell you when I'm cashing in. Full year, you and me for the title. And Regal had a smile there. It was almost like a double smile. You could look at it like, okay, he played MJF like a fiddle. And he allowed Mox to know when MJF is going to strike. And of course, Mox is Regal's boy now. Or you could look at it like a smirk and a smile and a grin, like, now you're getting it, kid. Now you're getting it. And he's kind of like really liking what MJF is doing and what he's becoming. You could look at that both ways. With William Regal, he's such a good storyteller. There's so many layers to it. I fucking love it. And with MJF, it just keeps helping this face turn. He's going to do this a real way. Or is he? Or does he totally fucking cop out and not just remain a heel, but go full diabolical, fuck up William Regal, Mox, everybody, and really make the crowd go, what the hell? He fucking annihilated a legend like Regal. Could you imagine? Wonder if this is not a full-fledged face. Wonder if. I'm just saying, man. Tony Khan has shown you he's willing to go the opposite way of what we think is going to happen and probably should happen. He goes against that. In one way, you could look at that as a good thing, right? It keeps you on your toes. It keeps things interesting. It's surprising. On the other way, though, it's like we said, like sometimes certain things have to happen. And Tony Khan will just do the opposite just to do the opposite. I'm not saying that he should or he has to turn face, but everybody is believing that's the route. I wonder if there's a different plan at the end of the game, right? I mean, you could have a game plan going into any NFL Sunday. Coach could just have the game plan is we're just going to run the whole game. Run. And then on the final drive, you could just see fucking passes. This could be Tony Khan throwing a pass at the end of the game. There's so many layers to this. I fucking love it. I love it. It's guys, I guess the way to end it, and I want to talk about Hangman for one more minute too, but the perfect way to end this segment show, this whole Regal, Mox, MJF thing is this is what wrestling is, man. It's just characters we care about and an awesome storyline that captivates us. Any TV show that you watch it because it's a good show, right? You're interested in the characters and the storylines that they're in. Otherwise, you wouldn't watch the show. This is the same thing, man. I mean, if you're really watching these shows to watch 6-star classics, every match of every show, every week, 4 or 5 shows a week, the fuck? It's scripted. It's predetermined. I'll never use the F word. I won't use that because wrestling is original. There's nothing like it, so it cannot be the F word, like Jimmy Smith just called it recently. But it is scripted. It's predetermined. I mean, a dude's just calling that shit out. It's heavily rehearsed most of the time. I mean, you have to have reason to give a shit about this stuff. And that's why we love pro wrestling. Since we started watching, it was always about characters that were larger than life and the storylines that we gave a fuck about. Guys, I don't think it's a coincidence that most of the stories that have captivated BC in the last calendar year, if you just take the last 365 days, if I was to choose the top 5 storylines in pro wrestling, I bet you at least 3. I haven't even thought about it, but I'm telling you right now, at least 3 are going to be MJF. Maybe even all 5. I mean, that's just how good. I put people like MJF and Bray Wyatt in a whole nother category because what they can do storyline-wise and what they are as characters is just, you don't see that in pro wrestling anymore. I can't give them more praise. So I'll stop with that. Hangman Page, as I said, he was taken away by medical staff on a stretcher. It looked scary. It looked bad. We pretty much knew it was a concussion upon impact because, again, he landed stiff. That usually means you got knocked out off of your feet in this case. And that landing is just what we were concerned about. On the landing, because he was already knocked out, did he break his neck? AEW put out that statement. And it says this, and I quote, AEW statement last night, Hangman Adam Page was taken tonight by medical personnel to a Cincinnati trauma center, diagnosed with a concussion. He was discharged, but will remain in AEW's concussion protocol. AEW and Hangman Page are grateful for the response and care of staff and local medical personnel and are appreciative of the love and support of fans everywhere. We wish Hangman Adam Page nothing but the best. A speedy recovery, not too speedy. Get well, and we can't wait to see you back. That's going to do it from the Amplified Studios. Until next time, there's just one thing left to do. Sasha, hit my motherfucking music.
I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'm a big fine, need time, and I'll soon be with it. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon.